Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Tracy Hager. I am the Communications Manager for the Unemployment Insurance Division here at the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is a TPA-specific webinar about the launch of our new MyUI Employer Plus system. I know a number of you have attended prior meetings. We are happy to have you back. You will see.
Host muted me. I want to hear her.
Oh, Tracy, you got muted.
Thank you. So we are happy to have you here this morning. For those of you that have attended prior TPA-specific seminars, you will see a little bit of repetitive information here, but also some new information, specifically as it relates to getting access to the system, getting your employer clients in the system, and getting the two of you connected. We are now just one day away from the shutdown of our old system. We are a couple of days away from go live of the new system. So as you can imagine, it's a busy week here at CDLE. We are here to answer your questions. So feel free to, when you have a question, drop it into the Q&A. We are happy to answer it in the Q&A. We will probably answer some of them live. If we do not get to your questions, we will do our best to put together a summary Q&A with responses. And we will also, towards the end of the webinar, tell you about a resource that we're going to have for you at Go Live as well. So if you could get us to the next slide, that would be great. Thanks, Craig. So what we're going to talk about today is just a very brief background of the project, why we're doing this. We're going to tell you about these specific dates and information for shutdown, go live, how we're going to get you in, how we're going to get your clients in. We're going to just briefly go over the key system upgrades for MyUI Employer Plus. We're going to dive into what's going to happen specifically at registration with your activation and TPA access. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of questions today, so we're going to spend some time on some frequently asked questions, and then we're going to dive into our Q&A session. So I am going to turn it over to Megan Culp. She is the branch manager of our Employer Services branch. So take it away, Megan.
Thanks so much, Tracy, and good morning, everyone. Nice to have all of you here on this really exciting week for us at the division. Some of you may have participated in one of our webinars before, so some of this information may be a little bit repetitive, but we are really interested in making sure that everybody has all of the relevant information, as Tracy shared, as we really get into this new system going live next week. So a little bit of background for us. The current system that we are using, that we hold all of the database of information for your employer accounts through, is called the Colorado Automated Tax System, or lovingly dubbed CATS for short. And this is a system that has been in effect, believe it or not, for over 40 years, from the early 1980s. It originally started as a mainframe system operating on COBOL language and has transitioned onto the cloud as of about 10-ish years ago, a little less than 10 years ago. And now we are fully doing the modernization, which is going to bring us in line with our modernized benefit system from a few years back. So one of the challenges we've had, as I mentioned, we've been a separate system from our benefit system historically, and especially for the last few years. And so what this is going to do is bring our system back in line with the benefit system. So for you third-party administrators that do the claims responses and do the quarterly filings and file appeals on behalf of your clients, all of that is going to be rolled into one. So we really are expecting to see improvements in user interface. So for you as third-party administrators, you will have your own login. You'll be able to administer your client accounts. Julie, who hasn't been introduced yet, but she will go through some of this a little bit later in more detail. But we've had great stakeholder support for more of those self-service features. And we really are hopeful that we are going to be modernizing into a really positive direction for all of you from a user interface perspective. And then some important information for you all to have as we kind of go through this week. So the important dates that you're going to want to have on your calendar. So our legacy system, the CAT system, is going to be shut down on September 27th. So this is essentially where you will go into the online system, MyUI Employer, if you are currently filing for some of your client employers. I know some of you TPAs are right on at the very end of the quarter and may have already planned to submit the report. That system will no longer accept reports as of the 27th. So if you plan to report before the system cut over, that's going to be the deadline for you. The October 1st date is the official go live date. You all as third-party administrators and payroll service providers are going to have kind of a open house early access opportunity to register in advance of when we invite the rest of the employer community into the system on October 3rd. So that's when the general employer account activation begins. As far as the third quarter reports and payment processing, as I mentioned just a moment ago, you'll have through the 27th to report online. Any paper checks that have been received by us, obviously the 22nd has passed as of today's date. So as of now, we are already holding payments until after go live. So you may not see payments reflected either within your client's banks. The employer themselves may notice a delay in check clearing. Those payments may not be applied into the system until October 6th, which is the Friday after go live, which is about a week and a half from today. So you may notice some delays in processing there. We are asking that we have all quarterly reports for the third quarter of 2023 submitted timely. So the due date is October 31st. We do not have an official extension to that as of now. We have had some feedback from stakeholders as to if there will be an extension or a grace period or a waiver of penalty or interest charges. As of right now, we are asking that all stakeholders have the report submitted on time, which is the 31st. And then again, the MyUI Employer Legacy System will be fully accessible until the end of business on the 27th, so 5 p.m. And that dark period, as we're calling it, will be the 27th through the 1st. And the 1st, again, it's actually up to the 1st for third-party administrators. So that's when you all will have access again. And I think I am handing it over to Julie Primo, who's our program manager for the Employer Services Modernization. Julie?
Thanks, Megan and team. I was just on there answering a couple of questions, so we'll be furiously trying to answer your questions as they come in. But a lot of information in here. And as Megan said, we're going to go over some of the key system upgrades. So really, when we started this project, we really had a focus on a modernized system for today's business needs and trying to keep in mind what our stakeholders, what our employers and our TPA populations really need to conduct business appropriately. So one of the things that we came up with was a new way to pay. What does this mean? Automatically calculated premium. So the form UITR1 is no longer required. No longer is anyone going to be required to make those calculations themselves. Once the system ingests the wage data from the wage report, the system will then look at everything and automatically calculate the premiums owed. There's also electronic payments via EFT ACH debit. There are a lot of questions about the ACH credit component, and that is in the works for a future release. We are working on it, but it will not be live at Go Live. And we don't have an ETA as of yet because we're waiting for the main state banking contract to be finalized. Employers must apply for a non-electronic waiver to submit paper check payments and paper wage forms. It's a very easy process in the system. You can call us and say, I need to communicate with you via paper, and the staff member will pull up the waiver right there, ask you a couple of questions, and then approve or deny right on the spot. Once approved, this waiver is good for 1 year. And then every quarter before your premiums are due, before your wage reports are due, we will send you a paper form to fill out and send back to us. It has a barcode that's automatically going to link your information to your employer account. And then we have people that are going to key the information in for you. But there are many different ways with this new system, and you'll see later on in the slides, there's many different ways to upload the wages. So we added in a lot of different options. Within the system, you can pay voluntary premium payments, leasing company certification fees, reimbursable employer securities, all electronically. You can view and search employer payment history. As a TPA, you're going to have access once you're associated with your employers. And more information to come on that association. We've got some things in the works. But once you're associated, you'll be able to look at past wage reports, past information, past premiums, past payments, past amount due, penalties, the whole nine. You'll be able to see it all in the system. You can also save banking information to your individual employer accounts or bulk payment info into your TPA account to streamline the future payments. And this is a screenshot of the payments. So you'll see that up at the top. It has the quarterly due dates for convenience and ease, although y'all already know that. And then we have our ACH company ID. This ID is changing, so this ID is not correct. This is from our test environment, so don't write that one down. And then you can put in the amount due. So this employer owes nothing. But if you did owe something there and you clicked summary, you would be able to see the breakdown of what is owed. You can type in the payment amount, choose the payment method, and then hit next, and it'll take you through the steps of filling in your information. Filing made easy. We really tried to make it easy to file. So we added in lots of different options, but some things remain. Bulk file formats and specifications have not changed. Delimited, ISSA, ESW2, or XML, all accepted with no changes. You can also easily identify critical errors. Files are also accepted with non-critical errors. So we have deemed certain errors as critical, certain errors as non-critical. Your file will be accepted with those non-critical errors. But if you have any critical errors, the system will tell you, and this is the cool part, it'll tell you exactly which row of your submission that the error is on and what you need to change, what the error is. So it will tell you all the information that you need, as well as for our FTP TPAs, so our larger TPAs that have to use FTP. The good news is our system can now take large files, but anything over 20 megabytes needs to be through our AWS family transfer. So the FTP is going to be going away and replaced with the AWS family transfer. We've already started reaching out to our TPAs that have consistently filed the files that are over the 20 megabytes so that we can start getting that set up so that they're ready to rock and roll at go live. The system will automatically trigger updates to qualification information on the individual employer account. So based on the information that you submit, if anything needs to be changed or a work item needs to be open for staff, the system automatically does that. You can also select and upload the same wage information from the previous quarter. So say you have the same 5 employees, you can just duplicate last quarter's and it'll come over and you just fill in the wages for this quarter and hit submit. It is very, very easy. You also have the option of manually typing it in if you would like. There's integrated wage adjustments and amendments. So say you file everything and you look at it after you've hit submit and you're like, oh gosh, I meant to put 5,000 instead of 500. That's a big deal. Or 500, you put 500 instead of 5, or the other way around. You put 5,000 instead of 500. You can actually go in and make a wage adjustment on that one in particular employee. All you have to do is select that employee and then change the amount and hit submit. The system will automatically calculate and recalculate the amounts due. As we said before, you can search and view previous wage reports. You can also assign multiple contacts to receive automated correspondence and reminders. There is going to be one account admin, but there are many, many, many account users that you can have to do business in there for you. And you can set up the permissions based on what they need to see. So it's not an all or nothing type of situation. You can customize the access that you give them. Thanks, Craig. So the streamlined reports. So this is the first screen that you come into, and you are able to pick the quarter and the year, and then you can pick your type. So this one, you can do a file upload where you attach the electronic wage file. You can copy from a previous quarter. You can do a manual entry, or you can say, hey, there's no wages to report. And then you hit next and it takes you down the path to submit. Another component that we really tried to add into this system in the development is self-service features. So really options for you to do business the way you need. What does that mean? You can search, view, and initiate information changes from individual employer accounts. So you can go in and make the changes to the employer account if you have the access to do so. You've got more searchable information, including your employer clients, correspondence, documents, reports, benefit charges, account histories, and so much more. You can pull a bulk rate file. You can pull a bulk payment file. You can search and view all of your employers. You can also export your employer list if you need to. There's also immediate, easy to find electronic correspondence. Paper forms are no longer going to be accepted without the annual waiver. And on that annual waiver, it's good for a year, but 45 days before that year is up, the system will automatically send out a new waiver, a paper waiver to continue your waiver. So you can fill that information out and then send it back in to be approved for another year. You can respond to fact-finding requests instantly right in the MyUI Employer Plus system or with the integrated side support that will remain. You have user-initiated wage adjustments. You can do appeals and protests right in the system. So if you need to appeal any of the claims that are filed, you can just go in, appeal it, type in your document that you got, the document ID, and submit your appeal right in the system. So you no longer have to send that to us, snail mail or fax. There's also less reliance on the UI division staff. Not that we don't want you to contact us, but we are going to give you more options to be able to do more of the business yourself. And we're going to be able to respond faster to the correspondences and the requests. Thanks, Craig. This is a sample of our employer account home. There is a lot of information here, but basically on the top is going to be a bar that is going to be very consistent throughout the system. It'll have the employer account number, employer name, if there is a bankruptcy status, and then if a TPA is associated with them, and then their claims response method. On the left-hand side is basic information. So FEIN, the status, are they active, their NICS code, email, and then you can view details. So you can click the button to view details. The correspondence, if anything is due, what the preference is. We've also included our phone number for convenience. And as well, you can view details to view additional information. And then account information is going to be the reporting method, your liability date for the employer, their current rate, and then also view details will take you to more rate information. And then account balance information, what's owed, anything that's uncollectible, the last quarter submitted, and the last quarter reported. And then that view details will take you for more balance information as well. We've really tried to also pull into the system more modernized collaboration. So our TPAs and employers, individualized user logins, and specialized accounts for our TPAs. So our TPAs will no longer own their employer accounts. The employers will own the accounts, and there will be an association with the TPA. So the TPA can do business on behalf of the employer. What this means to you, once it's all set up, you've got one login to get into the system, and you can see all of your employer accounts and do everything you need with just one login. You can also have those multiple users under your account if you need to. Our TPA client relationship is established and maintained by our employers. The form UITL 18 power of attorney is no longer accepted. We no longer need that because it's right in the system. Any TPA client relationships in place at the time of Q2 2023 are automatically going to be transferred into the new system with default roles and permissions. So the default roles that the TPAs are going to be getting is the ability to file the wage reports and make payments, as well as if there is any fact-finding or claims documents, those are going to be associated at Go Live as well. There is a TPA request for access feature planned for future releases where the TPA can initiate that to the employer and say, I need this employer to have this access, and then it will send a notification to the employer to go into their account and approve it. So that is planned for a future release. Don't know quite when, but we will get that in there for you. There's one account administrator with multiple users invited and assigned to the TPA and employer accounts, so that there's lots of different options to specialize the access that everyone needs. TPAs and employee users can be assigned any combination of roles, specified view only access to full account management access. And this is the TPA screen. So basically, the employer will come to this screen to make the association. They'll type in the TPA ID and then hit search. And then they'll click the TPA that they would like to associate with their account. And then they have checkboxes for the different roles to be assigned. And then they hit submit and it's done. It's as easy as that. We also have information on how to do this in our user guide for our employers and TPAs that will be posted to the internet to guide you through, so you can help your employers through this. But remember, those Q2 associations for 2023 will be done at Go Live. So you would really only need to reach out to any new employers that you represent through Q3. Our customer service, we've really tried to create a new standard in service to allow you more options to get in touch with us and to get assistance. We have a really cool built-in contact us feature that allows users to send inquiries and customer service requests directly to the UI staff. It is going to be on the employer homepage, and it just says contact us with an exclamation point, because we're excited about it. And all you do is click it, type in the information, and you can upload a document, and it gets routed directly to the staff. You also have an option for an urgent priority request if needed, so you can put that in there. We have electronic customer service requests, hopefully to reduce the phone holding times and transfer times. Another nice feature about this is we have opened this up to the entire UI division. So if you are on the phone with an adjudicator, or the employer is on the phone with an adjudicator and they need help and the adjudicator can't answer their questions, the adjudicator can then type in the information in the contact us feature to get a callback and to get that submitted for you on your behalf, instead of having to transfer you to a phone queue or you have to log in and make that request. So all of UI is able to do that on your behalf for the TPA or the employer. The inquiries are routed to the proper department staff based on the customer needs and relevance. Our plan is to walk you through some of the issues that you're having, or just take care of them and complete them out, and you'll get notified in the mail. There's more options to upload some more supporting documentation when submitting the inquiries. So you no longer have to submit an inquiry and then mail or fax us something. You can do it right then and there and submit everything that you need. And you can also submit those urgent customer service requests. And then you'll see on the next screen how easy it is. You just click the contact us, this pops up, you type in the information. We gave you 5,000 characters, so you can type a book to us if you would like. You can choose a file, you can choose an area your comment is related to. Not to worry, if you choose the wrong area, we can fix it when we're triaging. And then you hit submit and you're done. It's in there. We did have a suggestion, I think, from our TPA population to give a confirmation number. So we are exploring options on having a confirmation number and then being able to search by your confirmation number and what information to give. So we are looking into the potential to do that as well in a future release. So you might hear something about that coming up. So we've thrown a lot of information at you. So we're going to take a step back and just kind of walk through it again. So some of the things that we've talked about is easier payments, those online premium payments. That ACH credit is coming hopefully soon. But there are online payments, easy ways to pay, faster wage reports, so streamlined wage reporting process with lots of different options. And we tried to keep it as similar to today as we could. So we accept the same file types, and our semi-large TPAs can now file directly into the system. Self-service account management, user-focused functionalities, lots of different things that you can do. TPAs can have the administrator of the account as well as users, and the same thing on the employer side. So there's account manager on the employer side, and then lots of different users can be established. On-demand customer service, that contact us feature, where you can submit the request and get the information to us. And then also TPA and employer collaboration, just a better way to manage your team. You'll be able to see a lot of information and be able to get to a lot of information right from one login instead of having to manage multiple logins. All right, so what happens at Go Live? This is the hot topic, especially because, as I think Megan said, this is Go Live week. We're here, we have arrived, and all signs point to, yes, this is happening. So let's talk through account registration, activation, and TPA access and what all that means. So TPA account registration. Beginning on October 1st, so our MyUI employer system is going dark Wednesday night tomorrow, the 27th. And we will be dark until October 1st when TPAs are allowed in the system. Employers are not yet allowed in the system, but TPAs beginning October 1st, TPAs and PEOs and payroll service providers need to register for a MyUI Employer Plus account. And you need to register because you don't currently have an account anywhere in our systems for us to bring over and have you activate. So it has to be a new account. But don't fret, it is a few simple pieces of information and then you get your TPA ID. And those TPA IDs will be automatically assigned once your account is created. So you'll be able to see it and share it with your employers. You will access the MyUI Employer Plus TPA portal via the landing page on the CDLE's website. This one is going to be really important to bookmark because we're going to be able to provide updates to you on things that are happening in the system, what's new. So it'll be really important in the future to hit that TPA or that landing page for MyUI Employer Plus first before logging into the system. Then on October 3rd, after your account is created, you can search existing employers assigned to your TPA account. So we are having TPAs register October 1st and October 2nd. Once we have all of our TPAs registered, then we are going to run that association file to associate the employer population with their TPAs. Then on October 3rd, you can log in and see that your employers are there and you can start navigating and seeing things in the system. TPA accounts will be assigned that TPA ID, and then the employers will need to submit the valid TPA ID to assign future TPA relationships to manage their account. So that's anything that happened after the end of Q2 of 2023. And then we are going to have division staff available to assist TPA with account registration beginning October 2nd. We are going to be utilizing a Google form for help requests. October 1st is a Sunday. We're going to have very limited staff in the building. October 2nd just so happens to be a state holiday. So we are closed and our call centers are closed, but we are going to have our project team staff in to help our TPA population get registered and get set in the system and just do a little bit of cleanup work before our employers start to come in. So the way to get help is going to be through that Google form. And you'll be able to submit the request for help and we'll reach out and get to you. Then our employer account activation. So beginning October 3rd, early in the morning, employers with an active UI account will receive a PIN. So we're going to start sending the emails out pretty early on the 3rd. And then as soon as the emails are done, we'll stop sending them. And this is going to have information to activate their account in MyUI Employer Plus. They have an activation because we are bringing the information from our old system, our CAT system and our MyUI employer system. We're bringing that along. So they need to activate their account to get access to that. The email pins will be sent starting the morning of October 3rd, and we're hoping to finish them up October 3rd, but if not, October 4th. And that really depends on how many email addresses we have and how fast the system can send it out. The pins will be mailed the morning of October 3rd. We're going to print all of those out and get those over to the post office to mail out. So they'll be delivered by October 9th. Employers will receive instructions on how to activate their accounts using the PIN via the email or the USPS letter that goes out. The employers can access the employer portal via that landing page as well on the CDLE's website. So if you do have your employers, it's important to let them know, bookmark this, because that is going to be a great place for information and updates. Employers will be asked to create a new user profile and then validate with their PIN to link and access historical account information. Only employers can activate an existing UI employer account or register for a new employer account. TPAs cannot complete this process on behalf of their employer clients because the TPAs will own their own account. So the employer will really need to get in there and own it. That TPA client association, each webinar we get a lot of questions about this. There's a lot of interest in this, rightfully so, because you're going to have access to your account, but how do you see your employers? So the existing TPA client relationships being automatically transferred to the new system include those in place at the time of the Q2 2023 filing deadline. This list is going to be finalized the night of October 2nd when we upload it in. It's going to be a one-time process to support the data conversion efforts so that you can have your employers associated with you. TPAs can then view the clients assigned to their account by using the bulk rates system functionality in the new system. So you can pull a bulk rate file to see all of your employer accounts. The new TPA client relationships starting after October 2nd, they must be authorized in the employer account using that TPA authorization setting, because that POA form UITL 18 is no longer accepted. And this would also include any relationships that started during Q3 of 2023. Employers will be asked to provide the TPA ID like we saw on that screen. So they'll need to type that in and provide that. TPAs will need to provide this information to their employer clients in order to gain access to the client accounts. TPAs cannot perform any actions on behalf of their employer accounts until they have been granted access to the account by the employer. We are going to have that Google form available. So if you get in there and you're like, I am missing 50% of my clients, we have a problem. You can submit that form and the project team will work with you and reach out to you to help to resolve it. Once we go live, available resources, how can you get the help that you need? Visit the MyUI Employer Plus page on the CDLE website for all of the resources and project updates. We've been updating it as we go. We're also going to be loading that user guide on. So TPA and employer-focused resource articles, there's step-by-step processes, that MyUI Employer Plus user guide for TPAs and employers. And really with this, we took our current user guide and we revamped it with all the new information and added some new functionality in there. So it includes detailed system information and processes and what to do. But then essential online resources for Go Live. So we're going to have in that user guide right at Go Live how to register employer and TPA accounts, how to activate existing employer accounts so you can help your employers through that, and how to assign a TPA to an employer account, and then how do you bulk wage file and pay. So we're going to have that bulk wage filings and payment section up there. And then for our TPA population, that Google form to help log issues so our live support staff can help you and assist you. And then we are also doing an early pilot program for certain user groups. So we're going to have a couple users get into the system early before everyone else. And then I think I send this over to Tracy to talk through how to connect with us.
Thank you, Julie. Julie did a great job at hammering home the point that the landing page that I dropped in the meeting chat is going to be your go-to resource. I'm just going to echo it one more time because really that is the best way to get the most up-to-date information about what's happening with the project. On that landing page, there's a link to subscribing to our new newsletters. I think most of you probably already are there since you are here at this webinar. That's probably how you got here, but just in case, if there are other staff members that you'd like to make sure are getting these emails too, they can sign up there. You can also visit us online, but I will say the email is the fastest way to get the information. We are going to be posting on our social media accounts. In fact, we already have about shutdown, a warning about shutdown. And we will also post there when we are back live. And then we will probably hold an additional TPA webinar, and we'll keep you posted in the next week or two after go live to kind of bring us all together and talk about any issues that you may have encountered and how we are solving those issues. And so now we are going to launch into our frequently asked questions. This is just a list of a couple of slides that we put together based on the questions that we have received from these webinars so far. So we're going to cover those. Megan and Julie are doing a great job at answering some of our Q&A questions, questions that are coming in live. We will get to more of those as well. So you've heard this a number of times now, but our system is going live officially on October 1st. This is a rolling launch process with TPAs being able to get in first. So we're inviting TPAs to get in October 1st. We are asking your client employers to get in on October 3rd. So that's when the new system goes live. We also have that information on the landing page. When can you access the new system? As a TPA, you can start up your new account, your new TPA account, which we've never had before, on October 1st. Once you do that, you will be assigned a TPA ID number. You'll need to hold on to that ID number in order to share with any current clients that maybe that did not get referenced in the data association that we're doing, or any clients that you take on after October 2nd. Your general employers will get into the system on October 3rd. We will send an email out to our employer email list when we are ready for people to start registering. They will receive a PIN starting by email October 3rd. Those emails are going out in batches, so they're probably going to take a while. So your employers may not get their email until October 4th. Employers who we don't have email addresses for are going to get paper letters. We anticipate that those letters are going to go out starting October 3rd, although due to potential post office delays, they may not come through for your employers until October 9th. If for some reason your employer has paper communication as their preference and they do not get a letter from us in the mail by October 9th, they can call our employer services line. I will drop that number in the chat right after this to get their PIN. Can you keep using the old system? No, the old system will be shut down tomorrow at 5 p.m. and will not be available. However, when employers reactivate their account in the new system, their historical information should be in there. So the final thought there is that your Q3 2023 wage reports should be filed in the new system, not the old system. I did see one question come in about if they have already filed in the old system. Julie, can you touch on that? Is there anything they need to do? All of that information will transfer over, right?
Yep, all the information is going to transfer over.
Okay, great. Next slide. And let's see, I think I'm turning this one over to Megan to cover.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm furiously responding to Q&A. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
So electronic payments, filings, and waivers. So some of these questions have come up just recently in some of the answers that I've provided. So starting kind of at the top, what is the electronic filing requirement? Maybe a surprise to some of you may be known, we've actually had an electronic filing requirement in place by regulation for several years now. Based on different system limitations, we have not been able to enforce it. And so with the go live of this new system, employers and TPAs will no longer be able to submit paper filings. So we are requiring that all employers and TPAs report electronically. So this does have a waiver process. And so we will, and I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit on this Q&A, but I think it follows here to discuss the waiver a little bit. So there will be a waiver process that will be allowed for employers that can demonstrate a need, right? So very rural employers that have very spotty internet, or some of the more kind of smaller businesses that perhaps are less technologically savvy, who don't have access to the right technical equipment to make the submissions. If you have other limitations, I know we work with several employer populations who are served by or are part of a disabled community or have accessibility issues. So we certainly will have those issues reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Right now, we will have a paper file waiver that we can mail to you, or you can call our staff. And again, I want to highlight, you can call us after go live. We won't be able to do this for you and be prior to go live, which again, for employers is going to be October 3rd is when we can accept these calls. And you can ask for a waiver, and there can be a discussion with the deputy at that time. An exception to this is going to be the paper payments. So paper checks will still be accepted. We are asking that you do prioritize the EFT ACH debit payments through the system. TPAs will be able to make bulk payments through that. You'll be able to save the banking information. If you do elect to do a paper check payment, we are asking that you download and include the barcoded paper payment voucher. So that will associate the payment with the right employer account very simply. If, however, that's not available, you're transitioning the payment between the client's responsible for the payment, you're responsible for the reporting. They do need to at least make sure that their employer account number and their business name are very front and center on that check so that we can make sure to appropriately associate it. One really great enhancement, and I think Julie touched on this a little bit ago, is that wage adjustments and other amendments are available online now. So we previously would not accept wage adjustments or SSN corrections, name corrections, anything along those lines via outside of paper. So now we will allow you to do that. And I know that there's been some questions previously about when. If you are not an AWS transfer FTP filer that requires overnight batching and may have some critical errors that delay and after FTP submission. So if you notice you inverted an SSN number, or you accidentally put employer A's wages on employer B's employees, you can file that amendment immediately. We do have a validation process in place. An example of when that will happen is if, for example, you end up decreasing the amount of premiums that you owe, that will trigger staff review and approval through kind of a back-end process. But you as a kind of end user stakeholder won't see any difference to that immediately. You'll still be able to do the submission and make the adjusted payment immediately. And then do we upload wage files inside the new system? Yes, we can absolutely accept uploads through the new system, but employers, or TPAs rather, that have files in excess of 20 megabytes are going to need to be through that AWS transfer family. Next slide. And then registration and account management. So do we need to re-register for a MyUI Employer Plus account? Yes. Anybody who's been accessing MyUI Employer previously, whether it's, well, we've only had employer access, but if it's through individual client accounts and you just administer them over multiple accounts, those logins are no longer going to be usable, even from the employer perspective. So every user is going to be required to re-register for MyUI Employer Plus at Go Live. This does not mean that you need to register for a new account number. That is going to stay the same. That's going, well, the number formatting will be slightly tweaked, but the number itself will stay the same. Your employer history, your account history will transfer with you, but the access login will need to be reestablished with Go Live. Can TPA and employer accounts have multiple users? I've answered a couple questions about this today already. So to reiterate, yes, each account will have a single account administrator. So the person that's responsible for the overall management of the account. And then they will have the option to establish multiple sub-users. And the sub-users can be assigned a combination of roles. So if you have somebody on your account or in your TPA company that is responsible for payments only or administration of claims, that sort of thing can be established through the administrator. Account payment history, will it be available? Yes. So we are able to, with our conversion of account data, go back to the previous 5 years prior to this year and this year. So 2023, gosh, back to challenging my math, I think 2017, 2018 will be the period of time that will transition in total. So you will have the total account history for that current plus 5-year period of time. Anything outside of that is what we're kind of considering archived legacy data. It didn't just go poof and is gone. We can access it if needed for either 940 certifications or other audit needs for internal auditing requirements or any other sort of issue that you may have. We can still access that data. We ask that you just call us if it's not available on MyUI Employer Plus. And does this mean we respond to fact-finding requests online? Yes, we've already had online fact-finding requests established through MyUI Employer. This is kind of streamlining it a little bit with MyUI Employer Plus. And so fact-finding requests will be answerable inside MyUI Employer Plus, and that includes the TPA side. And I think this one's still me.
Or it could be me if you want.
I'll
Up to you,
take this
Megan.
one, Julie, and then
Okay.
I think you round us out. So TPA access roles and permissions. So how will TPAs get access to employer accounts? So employers must register for MyUI Employer Plus in order to grant TPAs access. However, we know that through some of the information that Julie's provided through earlier slides, that if you did the Q2 filing, and if you have a power of attorney on file, you will be transitioned into the system as an associated TPA. So any current clients associated with you will be transitioned. There was a question earlier that I will kind of address through the answer to this FAQ, which was if we have onboarded, we meaning TPA has onboarded new clients since the Q2 filing, but before go live, how will those folks get associated with you? So the way that I answered that, and Julie, please correct me if I am missing any details here, was that if you have a POA on file, if you have registered for MyUI Employer, the current MyUI Employer, we should be able to associate those clients with you. Where we may see a gap is if some of that is not quite in place at the time of data conversion. So Julie did mention the TPA form that will go live on October 1st for you to submit requests for support. If you're seeing big gaps in your client numbers, largely because of that reason or for any other reason, that will be an opportunity for you to submit that there and say, hey, we're missing 20, 30 clients. Can you help us get them associated? However, again, a caveat moving forward, effective October 1st and beyond, any newly onboarded clients will go through that association process through their own individual accounts. So this is replacing our POA process for any of you that are familiar with it. I know some of you have a templated POA with an authorized signature. The box is all checked. You just ask for your client's signature when they onboard with you. It is a little bit more of a lift here with them having to register for and then authorize you through their account, but it's a one and done and an annual renewal. So, and their annual renewal is passive. So you could argue that it's a one and done, and then it's in place for the long term. Do TPAs and employers need separate accounts? Yes, they will require separate accounts, separate logins. Some of you who administer your client accounts through MyUI Employer currently, we are asking that you do not own any aspect of the employer client's individual accounts. We like to see that those remain owned by the business owners and employers themselves, and that you as the TPA only administer through your TPA role. We recognize that there are some exceptions to this. I've reached out to a couple folks and provided my direct contact information so we can talk about those case-by-case situations that may require some alternative review by us internally. But generally speaking, this is the expectation, is that you hands off the employer accounts, you have your TPA account, and then they can delegate to you from there. And can TPAs assign themselves to employer accounts? So I kind of just addressed this. No, we need those employer accounts to be owned by and administered by the direct employers. They are responsible as the taxpayer, and they are responsible for their own data security. We are really doing a lot of work with this new system to really lock down on opportunities for fictitious employer and fraud. And this is a way that we keep all of their information safe. So we are asking for you to keep your TPA account separate and keep your clients administering their own accounts. And I think that's over to you, Julie.
Thanks, Megan. On to the Q&A, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, are there any, Tracy or Megan, that you saw that you wanted to answer live?
Let's see. I see a question here that actually I don't think we've come across before. So this is interesting. It's will a TPA be able to terminate the relationship with the client, or will the client need to do that?
That is a really good question. I'm gonna have to do a little research and get back to you. I don't know the answer to that one. You stumped me.
We will mark that as a Q&A that needs to be answered in the follow-up information that we'll post to our website. That was posted by an anonymous participant. Otherwise, I would follow up with it to you directly. Let's see. We have a question from Gar Potter, who asks, what will I need to activate my TPA account?
You will need basic information. So your name, email address, name of your company. That's probably very, very important. And that's basically it. Very, very minor information to set up your TPA account.
I see a question here from Mindy Booth, and it's duplicative of a couple of others I've seen. How will all of our clients be in our account if we have always paper filed?
That's a good question. We are trying to pull information from as many places as we can to try to grab all of our TPA employer associations. With having over 220,000 employers in the state of Colorado, we're going to miss some. So just reach out with that Google form to let us know if you're missing anybody. And then Tracy, I have an answer. I have a pool of resources from our project team that I'm getting information from. So hot off the press, TPAs can terminate the employer TPA relationship. So they can terminate, but they just cannot add themselves. So they cannot start it, but they can certainly end it. And then I did see somebody did have a question about the ACH company ID. And so I will put that into the chat as well as answer the question. So I did get that updated number.
And as just a follow-up to Mindy's question about associating accounts when they have paper filed, I saw another question in here about whether an employer, or sorry, whether a TPA can provide to us a list or a spreadsheet potentially of all of their clients in order to get those clients associated to their accounts.
So for the go live process, so a one-time process only, we're going to do that association file. And then if you do see that you have quite a few that are missing, reach out to us and we will do what we can to help you get those associated, knowing that moving forward, it would be on the employer to do. But we don't want to leave you without having your employers associated in a huge pickle, with having to file by October 31st and reaching out to hundreds of employers. So we're gonna try to help you do what we can. And so we'll work through all of those with you.
Julie, I've seen a couple of questions here in relation to sides. So it might be helpful if we just talk very basically about how sides will work in the new system. And then we have a specific question for a non-sides participant. Will the waiver be required for submitting paper responses to claims, just in case we have not been added yet as a TPA by the employer?
That's a good question. So the paper claims, so the paper waiver is only on the employer documents. It's not on the benefits paper documents at this point. So those paper documents will still go out. And then the sides relationships. So in the system, there is a claims and benefits TPA association with the employers. There is also a checkbox within the system if the employer or the TPA would like to be a sides participant. So as long as the TPA has checked that box or the employer has checked that box, they will be set up for sides. And then if an employer associates with you for claims benefits and the TPA has that sides box checked, then that employer would also be a sides TPA based off the employer or based off the TPA association. There was a really
Okay.
good string of questions that I saw that I'm trying to find again. But go ahead, Tracy. I might have lost audio, but I can't hear Tracy.
Employers to get
Oh.
their PIN.
Oh, there you are. Can you repeat that one, Tracy? You cut out.
Oh, sorry. It's if TPA email addresses are listed on an employer account and we're working to remove those TPA email addresses, how will the employers get their PIN number?
That's the exact one I was looking for. So we are currently working to scrub those email addresses for TPAs from the MyUI employer accounts. So if you have time and you have access to the employer emails and you wanted to go into MyUI employer and replace your email with the employer's email, that would certainly make things easier for the employer. But if you don't worry. We are working to scrub those. So what will happen at Go Live is we will remove your email address and then we will send the employer a paper activation notice out. The employer can always call us and say, hey, I want the email notification. And then we just add in their email and then resend out that notification. If you do a TPA, so if we do miss one or two, or even a couple hundred, and you get those employer activations, just fill out that Google form and we'll contact you to work through which email addresses we need to remove and resend those employer account activation emails. So we'll work with you on those if you do get one.
Okay, Julie, are there any others that you see in here that you feel like are a priority to answer in the next 2 minutes?
Ooh,
I
not
have
that
one.
I see,
I
Megan.
will- Yeah, I will just jump off real quick and say, we always see a lot of questions about QuickBooks. There's a couple different types of relationships that business owners have with QuickBooks. They'll either use the QuickBooks platform to create all of their wage reports, and then they do the submission either through MyUI Employer or through the paper reports. There's also an option for QuickBooks to be your TPA to do all of that filing on your behalf. So for the first example where you are the TPA client that's using the online services, you will need to now put the information into MyUI Employer Plus that QuickBooks prepares for you. Any forms that QuickBooks has currently, any templates, we will not accept unless you are a waivered employer. So please know that. Paper payments, of course, we can continue to accept. Paper reporting will no longer be accepted. If you have the TPA relationship where they are doing all of your payroll for you, they will again need to establish their own QuickBooks TPA account and then be associated through that method. You will not be able to click a button in your QuickBooks account and have them electronically file unless they have that TPA relationship. So we always get a lot of questions about QuickBooks, so hopefully that helps clarify a little bit for the QuickBooks user.
And then Tracy, I had one more and I talk really fast. We had a question on if we are going to be sending paper checks, do we need to print out a paper voucher for each client? If you have hundreds of clients, please don't. Let's not waste any trees. You do have the option to print out a bulk payment file. And what that is a text file with the employer account number and the payment amount. So you can print that out and send it in with the checks, knowing that the easiest and the best option is to do it right in the system electronically. But if you do need to do those checks until we have that ACH credit option available, you can print out that bulk payment file and send it in with your checks so we can match them up. Please also include the employer account number on the memo line to make it even easier for us.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for your fantastic questions, especially those stumpers. We'll get back to you. And we're going to send out a follow-up email with the recording. It will also be available on our website. Please make sure, as we've said multiple times, to bookmark that MyUI Employer Plus landing page. That will be your go-to resource for when you need to log in and for any additional information you need to get your account started up. We appreciate your time today. We look forward to working with you through the go live process, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you.